What's kicking, my little podcast chickens? Welcome back to another episode of MB2 Underground. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Joe Fox. What's happening, Miss Cooper? How are you?
You know what I was thinking about before this?
Mm-hmm.
You know how like people who have followers like name their followers?
Okay.
Like I
don't know this, but
like everybody that like listens to a certain podcast, they may be like a qualifier. So I listened to a podcast called My Dad Wrote a Porno. And the people that listen to that show are called the Blinkers because they like are fans of the show. And I was wondering what our fans, all 6 of them, would be called. Would they be called the Undergrounders?
I think our fans are Susan and our moms, maybe.
Maybe.
So
the Undergrounders.
Okay, Blinkers, can you help me understand?
Because the name of the main character in the book
Blinkers.
is
Gotcha.
Belinda. And so people that are fans of it are the Blinkers.
Yeah, I don't know.
Believers.
I don't know. We'll have to think on that one.
But I think the Undergrounders.
Undergrounders, sure. Yeah.
Welcome back,
Let's
our
do it.
Undergrounders. That's a
Welcome.
mouthful.
I
That's
love it.
what's going on with me. What's going on with you?
Not much. So we've got a pretty interesting cat that we're going to talk to today.
Interesting cat.
Very, very, very interesting. Really cool background, doing some really awesome stuff.
Like what?
Like spearfishing and freediving, which
Wait, is this the one that almost died in the hospital before an owner's trip because of a spearfishing trip?
I think so. I think we're gonna have to talk about that.
Okay.
But this is also a best-selling author.
Okay.
We haven't talked to a best-selling author yet, have we?
I don't think we have.
And this person also did surgery on himself, pretty complex dental surgery. So this is going to be fun
Interesting
episode.
cat.
Super excited to introduce, without further ado, general dentist from Little Rock, Arkansas, Dr. Jordan Cooper. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Sarah.
Welcome.
It's nice to be here.
It's great to have you, man.
Yeah, it's
That's
cool
an
to have you
interesting
here.
introduction right there.
Well, you're an undergrounder now.
Undergrounder. That's not a form of acne. Right?
It might be, honestly. But it's cool to have you here. You were the first practice I shadowed integration for. So like I went with Lindsay as your practice joined MB2 in 2018 to kind of learn how I do my job. And now you're here being interviewed about your spearfishing and your surgical skills and your book writing.
Flying in last minute to come visit with us. We appreciate you being here.
I was excited. I had the day off, so it worked out really
That's
good.
awesome.
The other 2 guys are holding the fort down, and my assistants had taken off, so it worked out perfectly. So thank you
That's
for
awesome,
having
man.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember meeting you the first time. Everything went so well
It's because I was
with
there.
our integration. That's right. That's right. You're our lucky charm of the company.
I think his words were the blind leading the blind. And I was like,
I
that
love
about sums it
I
up.
never said that. I never said that.
That's hilarious. So Dr. Cooper, seriously though, we're getting into some real fun dentistry stuff, some cool stories. But you're an interesting human, and it's always so much fun to learn from folks like yourself. But like first and foremost, can you just help our listeners, I guess the undergrounders,
Yes.
explain what free diving is, and then how did you get into it?
So I can tell you, I had no idea we were going to be talking about this, but cool. I love free diving. So a dentist friend of mine, actually from Tennessee, one guy that we're potentially going to have as a partner in MB2
Awesome.
in the future, invited me to go on a scuba diving and spearfishing trip in Cabo in 2011.
Okay.
And we got out there, and they had we were looking for the boat at the docks, and there was no nice boats. And there's all these little pangas, which is a little 16-foot, like little lancha, little fiberglass boat with a little small, maybe 40-horse motor.
Okay.
And finally, the captain shows up, and he's like, are you ready to go spearfishing? And my buddy says, well, where's the tanks? He's like, we don't have tanks.
We don't have tanks.
We go free diving. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. And he's like, I'm not doing that.
Love it.
So we go out on this little panga, the 40 horse, and go into the current by all these coral, and he's dropping me on one side. This guy he should have never done this, and
Right.
shoots me in between these coral where there's current, and I can shoot these triggerfish, and then he comes around the other side and picks me up. We do this over and over all day, and I shot like 22 fish that day, and I was in love. But I was also thinking, man, you could get killed doing this really easy. I'd never had any training. Had no idea what I was doing. Yeah. Of course, the dives were about 20 to 25 feet, so it wasn't that hard. But after that, I was hooked, and I started doing it in the lakes, and I went and took some classes. And since then, when I go on trips, if there's an opportunity to free dive, I like to go to the Caribbean and Central America. So
wow,
that's something I always try to do when I can.
That's
love
the
it.
most bonkers thing I've ever
It's
heard in my
a
life.
unique hobby, right?
Like I can't even swim, and he's just getting like plopped into the water.
But like free diving is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like you are basically diving without any equipment, right? Like you have
like
to
I
hold
said,
your breath.
Yeah,
bonkers.
you have to learn to hold your breath. So there's techniques for that, which I didn't really have that first time. But I'm pretty comfortable in the water. I've been around water my whole life.
Yeah.
But when you learn the techniques, and I've been out to some free diving instructor courses, they teach you how to slow your respiration and really saturate your blood with oxygen, and effortlessly flip over, dive down, and go as far as you can safely. Know when you need to come back up and all that. And they
Like
also
I'm
teach you to
suffocating.
dive with a partner, so that and how to rescue if someone passes out or like that. So all that stuff's important. So I don't encourage people to just go out there and start diving
Just
down and
do
shooting
it.
fish.
In
but
Cabo.
yeah, it worked out okay for me. I'm still here.
I feel like I can't breathe.
You're shooting the same fish that the sharks are after, right? I'm sure, right?
I've come up with you have a belt with a little loop on there to put your fish, and I have come up twice now with half a fish. So that's like right next to your butt cheek if you're not aware. So
Butt cheek and
a
fish.
little
I'm sure
bit
it
over,
tastes the
I look a
same.
little different from
Our
that.
lives are so
Unreal.
different.
No, you had kind of a scary situation with a spearfishing.
Yes. So
outing.
y'all brought that up a minute ago.
You're
Can't
welcome.
talk about that. I was getting in and out of a similar type boat in 21. I was down in Mexico the week before the owner's trip.
In Cabo.
That was going to be in Cabo, and
current theme.
in and out, probably 80 to 100 times. We were drifting over this shipwreck between Playa del Carmen and Cozumel. There's a shipwreck at 120 feet, and the mast of the ship sticks up to about 80 feet, and the permit congregate at that 80-foot mast area. So
Interesting.
because it's current, the boat will drop you off about 100, 200 yards in advance,
Right.
and then they'll yell at you, go down, go down, go down. So you start going down, it's dark, you can't really see anything, and all of a sudden you get washed into this mast, and there's a school of permit there.
Wow.
And if you're really careful and you don't flinch, if you flinch, the whole school moves, but if you kind of let drift up on it, you can take a large permit off that mast.
Wow.
And so we were doing that dive over and over again, and I got scraped up real bad on getting in and out of the boat on this
Ouch.
old rusty boat.
Yeah.
Oof.
And then it started to swell early the next week, and ended up having to be hospitalized and nearly died of a MRSA staph infection.
Unreal, man.
So yeah,
that's scary.
But that wasn't the diving. I'm not blaming that on the diving. I'm blaming that on
Diving
that boat.
is safe, guys. Diving
Yeah.
is safe.
I just can't even wrap my head around that. That's like all of the things I'm afraid of is water, the dark, people yelling at me.
Sharks.
It just says a lot. Oh yeah, that
I
too.
mean, come on. Right. Well, I appreciate you telling us about
Oh yeah.
that. So, look, listen, you're a best-selling author. Again, we have yet to speak to a best-selling author.
Right?
Chasing the Blue Marlin.
Chasing the
is
Blue
the
Marlin.
name of the book. Tell
Yeah.
me about the title. Like,
It makes a lot more sense now after the whole
So
fish thing.
So when I was about 20 years old, I wrote a list of 10 goals that I wanted to accomplish in life. And this is because I kind of woke up one morning and realized I was relatively aimless and in college and
Makes sense.
not really getting anything out of it, just drinking a lot of beer, and, And so I wrote those 10 goals, and I began to pursue them with a lot of fervor. And I accomplished all of them except for the one, which was to catch a large blue marlin.
Interesting. Now,
so it
why
be-
was that a goal? Like,
I
what-
just, you wake up in the morning,
Old
you're like,
Man
I'm
in
going
the
to set
Sea
some
kinda
goals.
stuff?
I had read Old Man in the Sea. That's probably part of it.
He's like, you
and-
just set goals.
Yeah. and
Why
I
a
had
fish?
Things I wanted to do. Most of them were related to like boating, fishing, and then career-wise stuff.
Yeah,
and so the one that I did not get done was the Blue Marlin. So I was then obsessed with it, and I had to figure it out. So because that was a goal, and it drove me to do all those things. And then once I finished those, I wrote 10 more. It kind of inspired me to share that story with others about, and it was a lot about self-actualization. You know, why do you pick a Blue Marlin? Well, you have to know yourself and know what's going to, bring you happiness or make you feel satisfaction or a feeling of accomplishment. And so I had 10 things that would do that. Part of that is knowing yourself. And so it's a lot about self-actualization, then setting goals that align with the values that you have, and then how to efficiently achieve those goals without losing your way. And so I've shared that book with a lot of people. It did really well. And even my patients, you know, sometimes will come in with a little folded up piece of paper and say, these are my 10 goals. And look, I've done these, you know, or it changed my life drastically because I sat down and did your exercise and then I stuck with them with your rules.
How cool.
And so that's been really rewarding for me. I mean, I make like $1 a book or something. So I didn't do it for the money. It was one of those things where I just wanted to share something that really helped me.
Have you been a writer in the past, or how did you? I mean, that's an endeavor to write a book.
Well, I had written like short fiction and short stories, but I had never like even thought about writing nonfiction. And when I started my first company when I was 26, I had started taking notes along the way, and I had this little drawer in my desk that had this little file folder, and that turned into a big file folder. And at some point, I had 5 days of solitude in my house, and I got it all out and just kind of spread it out and grouped it together and made it make sense in some kind of story type way and a narrative. Awesome. And then I sat down and wrote 100 pages in 5 days and kind of wrote it all out. And then it took me about a year after that to kind of refine it and get it to where it could be published. But that was like a labor of love, let me tell you.
You can tell when you read it, too. Now, you said you started your first business at 26?
Yeah, so 26, 27, right in that era. It was 2006, and I had went in with my dad to practice dentistry. And so he was my first mentor and the best one, still is a mentor to me in a lot of ways. And in that practice, I was not completely busy, so I had kind of started some other things and projects. And
your side hustles.
The side hustles took off. That's right, and your side hustle becomes your main hustle. That's a good thing, right? if you read Instagram little memes, your side hustle becomes your main hustle. That means you've made it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't Instagram. Just kidding. It's religion.
Yeah, a lot of that just kind of ballooned on me over time. I've had a lot of fun with it over the years. Everything's been fun.
I love it. I love it. Do you remember the other 9 goals? Those first 10 you wrote?
They're actually published in my book. The piece of paper that hung in my bathroom in college, I took a picture of it and published it in my book. It's got a coffee stain on it because I'd taken it out and set some coffee on there, and so I saved that. Still have it.
I just love that he's like, you can know the other goals. You have to read the book.
That's a soft sell.
I love it. I love it. Good. I can't wait. I didn't know you wrote a book until like 2 hours ago when I was reading the pre-show notes. So that's on me, and I'm gonna read it.
Did you just admit it out loud that you started prepping 2 hours ago?
No, I did.
Yeah, you did.
I started prepping 2 hours ago too on the plane. So
this was
don't feel bad.
The last minute.
I've been prepping for 6 years. I read the book.
You read the book.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you, sir.
But so the concept though of goal setting and self-actualization, like. What was your background? You didn't just come up with that. Like, what was like, is something your parents taught you, or like, kind of, how did you, I mean, I get the haze in college and waking up and be like, oh geez, what am I going to do? But, you know, how did you have the background to do that?
So, I learned, I'm very much a kinesthetic learner, and I learned from experience, touching, doing. And so pretty much I was putting my thoughts down on paper as I learned lessons the hard way. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, a wise man learns from his own mistakes, right?
Yeah, totally.
But a wiser man learns from the mistakes of others.
Yeah.
So here's my mistakes, and here's what I could have done better. Read this, do better, you know? So it's a lot of it's just speaking from experience. At the time, I was also realizing I was starting a business. I began to read some business books and some motivational books. So some of those did inspire me and make me think about things differently. So it's kind of a, you know, knowledge, experience is all cumulative.
Yeah, totally.
So by just kind of taking some of that and sharing it, I hope to help some other people as well.
Do you feel like you've always had that growth mindset where you're constantly like chasing bigger and better? Do you think that shift for you was in college when you had that moment of,
That was definitely a moment of clarity. And I was just speaking with one of the guys out here, said, are you going to write another book? And I do feel, you know, young people are strapped with a lot of ambition and goals and all that. And some of those revolve around money and accomplishment. And I think you do hit an inflection point in life where those aren't the most important things. And I think I read a book by Bob Buford several years ago that I didn't understand at the time. It's called Halftime, and it was when he turned 50, and all of a sudden his priorities changed. And I hope, and he's no longer around, but I would like to meet him and talk to him if he was. But I hope to write a similar type book as I get a little older. So my second book, first one, chasing the Blue Marlin. The second one, maybe, like a catch and release theme, like releasing the Blue Marlin.
Hey, you heard it
because you
here
have
first,
to
folks.
let go of some of those things that you chased as a young person in order to, self-actualize as an older, mature person. So I'm hoping I can do that.
I like it. Now, we talked a little bit about some of the businesses that you have been involved in, your side hustles. Before MB2, you had multiple locations. You kind of built your own little mini DSO. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Tell us about that.
Well, I had a business partner at first, and we built a couple of satellites. It was the side hustle. And I bought him out at some point, and we continued growing that business until I had 8 clinics, and my main clinic with my dad, and then the other ones. And we centralized management somewhere along 5 or 6 clinics, which was definitely difficult. MB2's been through that, and it's always getting restructured a little bit. Right. So you all understand all that. And so I had 5 people in my central office, and we started out with 1 or 2. Then it just kind of grew. And I listened to that podcast with Gabe the other day, and it sounds like I was going through similar things as they were going through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Relatable.
We had a lot of bank debt, so didn't have a lot of capitalization, and it was, I was the only owner, so that's hard because you wear a lot of hats, and the people underneath you wear a lot of hats too. And when there's 3 or 4 or 5 of you, it's a lot of pressure. And so I woke up every morning having to perform. And so during that time, I got up really early every morning to get focused because it was a lot. And and I feel the same way about owning a dental practice in general. You're kind of at the top of the pyramid, and it can be lonely at the top. And,
that's what I tell everybody.
There's a lot of pressure on you. And I feel like, we talk about MB2, that's what it provides, like camaraderie. Yeah. I've got 750 partners here in this company that are going through the same things that I'm going through. And back then I did feel, pretty alone in that venture. And the word DSO wasn't made up yet at the time. We were a group dentistry practice, and it was hard. I had to wake up every day focused, and I was still practicing dentistry at the time, so I had to get in people's mouths. So a lot of my admin stuff was done before work and after work. So it was a lot.
It is a lot.
So I was glad to be able to sell that to another larger group that cropped up during that time that was private equity backed, and so that was a really good deal for me. And I carved out the one practice where me and Dad worked. And then Dad and I bought the house next door and expanded into that space, and now it's a much larger clinic. And 3 years later, I was a partner with MB2. So it's been a really good venture for me.
Yeah, walk us back to that time frame. What made you choose MB2? What was the decision-making process back then?
Oh, that's a good question. So a friend of mine and my dad's was a orthodontist who was nearing the age where he would want to sell. And so he had asked me if I had any relationships in the DSO world, which I happened to.
Yeah.
And I was able to get him a meeting with the 3 top DSOs at the time. And one of them was MB2. And MB2 was kind of on the come up at the time. So I brought him down here, and we talked to Puckett and Dr. V and Justin Carroll and Jake Berry. All in a little room, and there was maps on there. Do you remember this? The maps on the wall?
Oh, yeah.
They had push pins in every state, but Arkansas was up there naked.
Yep.
And so I said, well, they said, hey, what would it take for us to take your practice and put a pin right there? I said, oh, I'm not interested in that. And I got to thinking about it. I was like, those guys were so cool. So a few weeks later, one of them emailed me, are you sure you don't want to? And I said, actually, y'all are really cool. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what that would look like. And 7 months later, I'm an MB2 partner. So that was, at this point, I can say that was one of the best decisions of my life.
That's
right
awesome.
then, I felt like it was a gamble.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was my gut was telling me that it was the right decision. And now, time has backed that up. So I've been really happy with what we did there.
Joe, I think to answer your question, he decided to join MB2 so Arkansas wouldn't be naked anymore
Naked.
on the map.
Cannot
But
be
now there's
naked.
naked. I said naked. There's a difference between naked and naked.
No,
right?
no. What is it? Please.
Naked is you don't have any clothes on.
Okay.
Naked, you're naked, but you're up to something. But
That
everybody
is
knew
Arkansas wisdom right there. I love it.
We needed that today.
We did do that. So, speaking of that Arkansas wisdom, you have done very complex dental surgery on yourself. Can you help me understand that?
Oh my gosh,
And,
that
and listen,
video.
have you
Okay.
seen the video?
Oh,
YouTube?
Baby, I'm an OG
YouTube?
here.
Google?
I saw it during
You can
integration
talk
week.
the link in the
Cooper.
bio if you want to. It's kind of funny. No, I had a retained deciduous molar here, which is a baby tooth for the non-dental people that
Thank
never
you.
came out because the permanent didn't come in to push it out. And so when I was about 30 years old, we took that out. And, I kind of had always wanted to be the first in the world to do something, and nobody had done it yet. So I had to. I had no choice.
I love it.
And
my
so we got film crew to come in and I bought a mirror from Amazon, a tall mirror, and I wheeled my chair up there next to all the suction and stuff. And we brought a film crew in to film from behind the mirror and the one behind me into the mirror. So we had two angles.
I just love that the
And,
most professional part of this is the videography. Like he got his mirror off Amazon.
Special crew.
Like the actual setup isn't, but he's like, I'm going to film this.
yeah. And so you're doing dentistry in a mirror on yourself.
Wow.
And so the thing about in a mirror is it's actually not backwards. So it was fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
my
Double
gosh.
negative. So, but like, what about the sensation of doing surgery on yourself? Like, you are the patient and the surgeon simultaneously. That is awkward.
At
It
the
was
same
kind of
time.
weird numbing myself up. That was kind of weird. And then making the little incision there. But the weirdest part was actually with an implant, when you put the screw in at the very end, an implant's just a titanium screw that goes into the bone.
Yep.
You have to have a little torque wrench. So you got to kind of crank it down, right? So I had to get in there and crank it down. I could feel the pressure of it going in. Now I know what all my patients feel when we're doing that.
Well, there you go. Maybe that should be in dental school, right? Dental school 101. You got to do a little surgery on yourself just so you know what your patients
Oh my
feel
gosh, like that's a prerequisite.
Yeah. So, y'all, a few weeks later after that video came out, I had a guy come in and get a bunch of implants. And he drove from like an hour away.
Wow.
And he said, he was 90 years old. And he said, I passed like 25 dentists to get to you, but I want the man who did it on himself.
Oh
Love
my
it.
gosh.
Well, but like seriously though,
No?
like you can't get better marketing than that.
So, yeah, there was a little ROI there.
That is awesome.
Got shit on
What a-
after all that. But it was fun. It was a fun experiment.
Good for you. Have you done it since?
I haven't needed to, thank God.
My favorite part of the video was the wrench, the self wrench.
Oh, yeah.
That
Oh
was
my
pretty
God.
cool, man.
You gotta
Yeah,
stop
it was
talking about the wrench.
Awesome. So, what are you up to now? You got a great, thriving practice in Little Rock. Like, what's happening? What are you focused on right now?
Well, so really two things. It's a stay down till you come up mentality, right? And MB2 has been so good, and I've been so proud of what we've been able to put together since I joined on. And we're going places. If we don't do anything, if we don't change what we're doing, we're going big places. And so, like, I am in it to win it. I'm MB2 all the way. I'm proud of us. And, the alignment that we've created in this company is awesome. You can't reproduce it. Nobody will ever recreate it in the United States. So I'm really proud of that, and I'm staying with it till the end. So that's one thing. And then I have my real estate stuff on the side, which I do a lot of that too.
Tell us about that. That's interesting.
So I've bought homes along the way, and so I have quite a few rental homes, and then I've got some commercial real estate. And during COVID, my business partner and I, on the commercial side, acquired a historic hotel in Hot Springs, Arkansas. So
Interesting.
we have recently gotten that on the National Historic Tax Registry, and we're about to start remodeling that in a mid-century modern style. It kind of has to be congruent with the original style. So
dope.
that kind of stuff is really fun for me.
Oh, that's super fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
What background do you have in real estate?
Just same way as everything. Just
getting
kind of
into
get
it,
in
doing
there.
it on the
It was
job
on the
training?
list. It was on the 10 things list.
It's the shotgun approach to life. Somebody told me one time, they said, Jordan, you really take a shotgun approach to life. And I'm like, what does that mean? Well, you're just bang, 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 and you're going to hit most things, but you're going to get a lot of things wrong, right?
Yeah, totally.
He said, I think you'll probably get 80% of your decisions right, and 20% wrong. This is like a mentor type person to me. And I got to thinking about it. I said, well, is that good or bad? But I think a lot of people are kind of paralyzed with fear, and they don't get out and do. And I'm not scared to fail, which means I have a nice resume of failures, by the way.
Yeah, totally.
And so I learned the real estate stuff through that. And when I had my first company, I owned all the real estate for the dental practices, and so that was kind of my first toe into the real estate. Made a lot of mistakes there as well, but my business partner, Rick, always says you make your money when you buy. And so I told him I was going to get that tattooed on me for making a bad deal.
Shotgun approach to life is the best way I've ever heard you described. Like that really just like hit the nail on the head.
Sarah, you know me. Would you agree?
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of, and I think it's different things work differently for different people, but that's been my recipe for success because I'm a quick start. I really think you have to know yourself. I took this color code test one time, and I was like, the red, the green, and the blue are all like 1. It's 1 to 10 on each color. It's like a vertical bar graph.
Okay.
And the quick start was the orange, and it was like a 10. So, so for the other types of personalities, didn't even register, and for quick start, whatever that is, I didn't probably read it, but I was that.
Oh, I could give you an explanation.
So,
but I think that's cool because
Awesome.
I don't have that, and I think it's really impressive to be able to just say, this is something I want to do and I want to try, and the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to fail, and then I'm going to try something else, and maybe that'll work.
Yeah, I think the younger you are, the more you really need to do that. I'm getting a little more, like I'm regressing.
It's almost halftime, man.
Yeah, it's almost halftime.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. No, I think that is a common trait amongst entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Right. A common trait amongst founders is like, hey, not being afraid to fail or knowing that that's probably how you get your best experience. So
I saw a podcast not long ago, and the girl that was being interviewed said that as a kid, every single day at dinner, her dad would ask the table, how did you fail today? And so everybody had to, and she said, what I found myself doing was doing things I knew I would fail at, so I had something to say at dinner. So she's like, I tried out for the cheerleading squad and I made it. And I came to her and I was like, Dad, I made the cheerleading squad. And I was like, what a cool way to really try to encourage failure as in an effort to try something new.
100%.
So maybe you should try that with your 40 kids.
100%. Well, it's so funny as a parent, like you're almost hardwired to do the opposite, right?
Yeah.
You want to protect them. You want them to succeed so bad. You don't want them to fail. But again, there's the the kick in the butt is that some of the beauty happens in the failure or in the attempt that doesn't lead to quote unquote the outcome you envisioned previously.
That's where all the learning is. The best lessons are the most painful.
Well, and you're a dad. Do you instill that in your kids as well?
Well, my kids are 10 and 12, and
fun ages.
to be clear, I'm a dad first now, and we do a lot of fun exercises kind of like that. We have little meetings in my study. But I've got them reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens right now.
Oh, cool.
Excuse me. And we go over the chapters and kind of talk about what that means. And
Like a little book club.
we talk about a lot of things like that. Like I really talk to my kids more like adults than probably most people.
Yeah.
But I really want that, I feel like that there won't be as many opportunities for failure that I had in the future. And I feel like they really need to get an early start in entrepreneurship. And so we talk about that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah, no, I think it is a different world, right?
Yeah.
For our kids' generation.
It's
I've got
changing
13,
rapidly.
12. And
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Again, that concept of like not pushing them to do something that they maybe, could or highly likely to fail out. Like it's the perspective on that's changed, right? Since the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Old school.
Yeah.
I agree.
The
Yeah,
80s.
interesting. So what advice do you have for young dentists your age, any spectrum of ages within dentistry? What advice do you have, right, generally, specifically?
Well, so I was very blessed to come out of dental school and go into practice with my father, who was a great mentor. And after a year of practicing with my dad, I really was very curious how anybody just came out of school and hang up a shingle and went to work, because he did teach me a lot. And I wish I would have spent more time there before dental school or during dental school, but the honest truth is I had no idea I was going to be a dentist. So it was like, it wasn't really in my plans. And so that was kind of a change for me that happened about the time I was planning the Marlin stuff. So
It was on the list.
It was on the list. And so you go, okay, I've accomplished my goal. Here I am. This is going to be
Ta-da!
great. Wait a minute. I don't really know how it works in the real world.
Yep.
Real
Yes.
world.
Yes. And so Dad taught me how it works in the real world. And I I became chairman of the new dentist committee in the state of Arkansas. And one of the things that I did during that time was hire a lot of mentors. And so I'd do what was called like the Pearls of Wisdom on Saturdays. And I would hire a speaker to come in who was an experienced general dentist once or twice a year and just go through, basic general dentistry that people need to know when they get out of school. Because school doesn't really teach you how to practice in the real world. And so I really feel like context is important for learning. And so until you have a basis of knowledge about the field of dentistry, the little details don't stick.
Right.
So either you shadow and you learn from a book, and then you shadow, but you can't just learn from a book because it doesn't translate into how your hands are going to perform the task. And so I really feel like the first few years it's critical to have mentorship. And that comes in a lot of different forms. But mentors were really critical for my success, maybe more than a lot of people because I wasn't quite equipped enough when I got out of dental school. But I've had great mentors, starting with my dad, and there's been several others that have made a huge difference in my life, and I'm very grateful for them. And I would advise anyone who's thinking about going to dental school to shadow. If they're in dental school, to shadow somebody who's really good, because you're going to learn from that person what you're going to put into practice the day you walk out the door of dental school. And then if you're a student that's only been out for a few years, go shadow a specialist. I shadowed several surgeons because I wanted to be proficient at surgery. So learn from the best, right?
That's how we got here. Makes sense.
Yeah. Sure.
I love it. Yeah, mentorship's a big deal.
Yeah, big deal. And, you go spend some time with people who are better than you. And if you learn 5 things that save you $100 a day,
right?
There's things out there, plenty of tips and tricks that can make your practice more efficient or make you more productive. And you put those things into practice every day. You add that up along the course of a year, and cumulatively, that's a lot of money.
That's impactful.
Wow.
And so
saved,
if you look at it from a patient care perspective, the more things you learn, like little tips from how to make the shot hurt less that my dad had taught me, there's so many other things like that just makes the patient care experience better. And you're not going to reinvent the wheel. Somebody else out there has figured out how to do it really good. So why sit there for years and struggle in this little room like this and giving people shots and try to figure out the best way when you could go to somebody who's been doing it for 30 years and watch them do it for a few hours and you've got it, So my advice would be to
keep learning.
Keep learning, yeah. Keep learning and learn from the best.
Yeah.
No, I love it. And there's another little beautiful nugget, right? That special people are wanting and seeking to be around those that are better than them, right? That's a lot of folks are afraid of that, right? That's pretty cool.
You have to have a little humility to admit that somebody's better at you than something, but just go do it. And the learning is very rewarding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Can I do the fun questions now?
Of course.
Yay. Okay.
Ooh,
so
fun questions.
Transitioning, especially when we have dentists that come in and are being interviewed, I personally love the tea of hearing like a crazy patient story. And I also know you were worried about filtering yourself for this episode. So this is where I want you to turn the filter off and tell us your craziest patient story.
You can't be your own crazy patient story. That's pretty damn crazy. But
honestly,
you already told that one, so we need another one.
Yeah, that's...
I have to think about that for a second. People are bizarre. Human behavior is bizarre.
Yeah.
And so I have to look at it and go, but if I was that person, it's human nature. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
And so it's really, and I didn't used to see it that way, but over a number of years, I find that like when I go to the eye doctor and I do something really weird, probably 1,000 people have done that because they were expecting
doing weird
it.
at the eye doctor?
Well, I just use that for an example, Sarah. I don't know if you know this, but my eye, I got something in my eye diving into the last weekend in the lake with my kids. And so I'm on a bunch of medicine to clear it up. But I didn't have any goggles. There was only 2 pairs of goggles, and so I was letting them dive with the goggles. I didn't have the goggles. Something got in my eye. So I was at the eye doctor this week getting that taken care of. Because I was like, I can't go to Dallas and do a podcast like this.
We should have put a pirate patch on him.
Patch.
Oh, I should have.
Get you a patch.
I guess I could have.
No, that makes total sense though, right? Like people are people, and the experience that some folks have with dentistry is very fearful. It's very challenging. It's very they're very vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
And so
it just makes for a very boring answer though.
Well,
we're getting to the answer. It's cooking in there. I'm just
okay.
So
That's my favorite
I
part.
can't really think of anything fantastic for you guys offhand, but I'll tell you, I had the weirdest things during COVID.
Okay.
I would go in to check people's teeth, and I'd have to convince them to pull their mask down.
Oh, right.
Oh, my
Yeah.
Like, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah,
if you're not going
exactly.
to open your mouth,
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
have to move that. People, but again, it could have been, I might do the same thing. I don't know why they were doing that, but in their head, that's what they needed to do.
Right.
But people do strange things. And I had a lady in a couple of weeks ago, and she came in and said, "Hey, I've got a toothache." And I said, "Okay, well, which one is it?" And she said, and I said, "Okay, I mean,
You're
I get
supposed
it.
to know,
I get
Doc."
it. I'm the dentist, right?" But left or right? She goes, "You're the dentist."
Wow.
And I said, okay, top or bottom? She's seeing how good I was, right?
like
Can
it.
you tell? And I said,
Like it.
and I just had to say it. I couldn't help myself because I couldn't see anything going on. And I said, if I went to the knee surgeon and I came in there and I said, "Hey, I need knee surgery, doc," and he said, "Which one is it?" And I said, "You figure it out. Which one is it?" I think he would tell me to come back until I knew which one it was, And she kind of laughed, but she still wouldn't tell me which tooth it is. And I don't even know if she knew, And
Interesting.
so
Yeah.
a lot of bizarre things happen in the dental world.
No, I love it. I
Okay,
love it.
then funnest story at an MB2 event.
Does shooting fireball with you count?
Oh my gosh.
At 7 a.m.,
It was
no less.
7:00 in the morning, and it was it was back when they used to do the big night on the first night. And so I was exhausted. It was,
Exhausted, is that what we call it now?
yeah. I was new to owner's trips, and he's literally in the van like, "Let's do a fireball shot."
Got a secret.
Hair of the
Secret
dog. Hair of the
stash.
dog. When it was chilly, too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't bad. We were wearing shorts.
Okay.
I was warming you up for the day.
Yeah. Fireball. Maybe that's
Now-
why I was wearing shorts.
I'm not going to tell on anybody. And so
Uncle Puckett, you can tell on him anytime.
I can tell on Puckett. He's theoretically my boss. Right?
I love
So
it. No.
I think leave that right there. But yeah, all the MB2 trips have been great. I hate that I had to miss the one.
Yeah.
But
Well,
this
we're
last
glad
one
you're
was
live,
really
though.
fun too. And I got to have Dr. Jones there with me too, so that was a lot of fun.
Oh, I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What? How can folks find you? Can you maybe give us your Instagram handle or?
Yeah, it's Dr. Jordan Cooper, and if y'all would like to, you can put my link to the book in there. You can put the link to the video of me putting the implant in if you want
Jeez.
Chasing the Blue Marlin
to.
is the
And
book.
then yes, and then just my Instagram would be awesome. Yeah,
Excellent.
I would love to talk to any dentists who are thinking about DSO experience, thinking about private practice. I've done a lot of consulting, thinking about joining MB2. I'd be glad to talk to you and talk about what onboarding might look like. I've onboarded probably, 15 or 20 practices into
Wow.
MB2 so far. So I'm excited to talk to anybody who's interested. It's not necessarily the right fit for everybody. I think one of the beauties of MB2 is they want a cultural fit, but that creates the alignment that we have. And so, I think just get in where you fit in. And I'm happy to talk to people about if DSO is the right thing for them, if DPO is the right thing for them, MB2, those types of questions. As a young person, I set phone calls all the time with young dentists and just kind of talk them through the pros and cons. I'd be happy to do that with anybody.
I think that's super cool and very
Love
helpful.
it.
Thank you.
I like doing it.
Awesome, Dr. Cooper. Well, listen, appreciate you taking the time and
Yeah, thanks
flying
for
out.
coming out.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
That was fun.
Absolutely. Listeners, thank you for joining us for another awesome, super unique episode of the MB2 Underground podcast. We'll catch you next time.
Bye, guys.